I'm Eelke Kleijn and you're watching How I Play on DJ Tech Tools. So as you can see, I have a little bit of a different setup compared to a lot of other people. First of all, my live setup is not based on a laptop. I do use a laptop, but it's running Cubase, so it's not running Ableton like most live sets. And most of the music comes from two Pioneer samplers, the DJS 1000s. I use them to play my tracks live. And when I started with this live setup, I said the most important thing to me is that people actually see me play an instrument. Live sets are great, and there's a lot of people that do really good live sets, you know, tweaking things and tweaking controllers. But I always thought, you know, the 5% is going to notice, the freaks in the club. And most of the crowd don't really exactly know what you are doing. So I figured I want to make it clear that I'm playing a live set and not a DJ set. And so I want to have an instrument here, and I want to have it prominent as a part of the live set with me playing some of the melodies live on it. So basically the idea of the live setup is that I approach it as a DJ set. I have my one track here, which is on channel 3. Then I have the other one on channel 4. And both of them are running the same USB stick, and I can load up any a track that I would like. For every track that I want to play live, I've made an arrangement. So apart from using them as a sampler, I basically use them as a sequencer as well. So you have all these scenes here that I can switch to, and they all represent different parts of that track. I even made two versions where one version is if I'm carrying the synths around, and the other one is if I'm not, which could be, you know, for a hybrid sort of DJ live setup. But I'll focus on the live part for now. So when I'm playing one of the tracks, like the Orde van de Nacht in this case, channel 3 is running the main music. So I have kick, snare, things like drum fills. I have my bass line. I have things like hats, little flange sounds, vocals. So when some of these are getting triggered, but for instance the kick, as you can see, is getting triggered in the sequencer, and other things are on here as loops. So I use a combination of live triggering, for instance, for the vocals, or snare fills, and then the other things are getting played from the sequencer. So when I have the track running, I will play some of the melodies live on top. So in this case, it's the string part. So my synth, my go-to synth is the Dave Smith Mopho. It's honestly, it's mostly used as a MIDI controller. So USB is connected to my laptop, which is running Cubase, and then in Cubase I'm running Omnisphere, Contact, and maybe, you know, one or two other plugins. So I can very easily change from this to, you know, another sound. There's you know, pads here, and there we go. And of course, it's very easy to use the Pioneer for the effects as well. So I use those extensively as well. In case I don't want to have one of the sounds from Omnisphere, the synth is also connected directly to channel 2. So if I take down 5 and 2, I'm playing it directly here. So there are tracks such as The Calling, which use this bass line. And in that case, both the Pioneers are connected to a MIDI Merger. And the MIDI Merger is again connected to my laptop. So as soon as I load up the track here, it will load the appropriate preset here. And if it's a track that uses one of the sounds from Cubase, I will close channel 2 and open up 5, and then I can play the sound right over there. What I really like about playing like this, apart from, you know, playing an instrument and all that, is that I almost approach it as a DJ set. So I'm mixing from this one. Say the track is almost finished, I'm actually loading up this one and I can mix into it. And that gives a lot of creative freedom because I'm not tied to a certain list or a set list, you know. And if you're playing for an hour and the next act is not there yet, and they ask you to play another 15 minutes, that's a difficult point for a lot of live sets. And for me, it's, you know, nothing else except loading up another track and, you know, here we go. I've got all of the appropriate sounds over here, and I could play, you know, 10 more minutes or 15 more, or I could play half an hour more. I don't really care. And also my order isn't really set beforehand, you know, so I can actually play into a crowd and think, okay, you know, this is a bit of a harder night, so we're going to take it up a little bit tonight, which makes it really dynamic and interesting and fun for me as well, because I couldn't imagine myself playing the same live set for, you know, 3-4 months every single night. It would make me go crazy, you know. It's boring and it's no fun, and it's not really live to me either if you're playing the exact same thing for weeks, you know. Yeah, sure, it's live, but it's not live. You're not really playing towards the crowd, and that's what I enjoy about this setup. It's pretty basic with, you know, 2 DJS's, the Mopho synth, then my laptop. I've got the UAD Arrow Soundcard, which I forgot to mention, which is running a couple of UAD plugins. So I use the Lexicon Reverb. I think there's a little bit of EQ. It differs per sound. I don't want too much delay, so or latency, I mean. So I have set up the effects as send effects, so I can easily send, you know, every instrument that I want to a reverb, for instance, but it doesn't add too much latency, because if you're playing a live instrument here, you don't want to add latency. So for the future, I am thinking of expanding the live set a little bit, because, you know, it's simple and it does its job, but there's moments where I wish I could do a little bit more. So I'm thinking about, you know, I've got the 6-channel mixer now since the beginning of this year. So I've got 2 extra channels which I'm not using yet. I'm thinking about adding maybe some live drums with the pads, which would be really fun. And one of the things I really want to add, for instance, if I'm using the Pioneers here, I always have to dive into the menus. So, for instance, if I have, let me play this one for you. So I have my strings playing on this channel. You know, I can dive into it and change the cutoff. but you don't always want to be diving into menus. So one of the things I want to do is probably add another USB interface and get some really nice small MIDI controllers that I can connect to the Pioneers again, and so that I can tweak a button here without having to dive into that menu to change the settings. So these are some things I'm thinking about, which I will probably get in the future. But so far it does its job really well. And I really like the fact that you're actually on stage playing a live instrument. Ideally, I would maybe like to add some bass or guitar in the future, but we'll see. For now, this is the way how I play live. Yeah, and I'm really enjoying it like this.